You have your ult?
Hey, what's going on, Champ Squad? My name is Vinsanity if you guys are new, and welcome back to another Apex Legends video, of course. So in today's vid, we're going to tackle a topic that has been front and center in recent seasons of Apex Legends: skill-based matchmaking. So I've seen a ton of recent videos popping up in my feed about how Apex is dying, and one of the major reasons that people keep bringing up is the flawed current matchmaking system. And I do understand why. There are definitely some major issues with the current way that matchmaking works, and we're going to break these down in this video and try to provide some suggestions for how it could be reworked to try to make Apex have a more balanced gaming experience. So to kick things off, I think it's important to acknowledge that Apex does need some degree of skill-based matchmaking. It's a necessary mechanism to prevent legitimately brand new or low-skill players from ending up in lobbies with this sort of guy. In theory, skill-based matchmaking ensures that players of the same caliber are generally placed in the same lobbies so that everyone in Apex experiences a competitive, balanced gaming experience. But the past few seasons of Apex have exposed some major flaws with the current system that I'm going to go through. Alright, so in my mind, the first big issue is the complete lack of transparency with how matchmaking works in Apex. We've all heard of things like hidden MMR and other metrics that Respawn could use to determine what skill tier you're placed in. It could be based on KD, overall kills, recent match performance, damage per match, and many more things, or a combination of these metrics, which is probably the most likely. The truth is, people will continue to speculate how MMR and skill-based matchmaking works, but no one really knows, and to some extent it's actually important that Apex doesn't fully disclose how matchmaking works, because if they did, people would game the system, get into bot lobbies, and this would pretty much collapse the game. So I don't think Respawn can tell us exactly how skill-based works, but they could disclose some general information about skill-based matchmaking, such as why it exists, and some of the major factors they consider when placing you into lobbies. I do think just a little more transparency about how matchmaking works could go a long way in instilling confidence in the player base, that Respawn's aware of the current matchmaking system, is always evaluating it and tuning it to try to improve it. Alright, so the next major issue with skill-based matchmaking is the imbalance between the teammates you get and the opponents you come up against. Nearly every time I solo queue, I'm matched with a pretty new player who's low level or has very few kills, yet I come up against exclusively top-tier stacked teams in those same lobbies. So this makes solo queuing incredibly difficult in Apex Legends, because you're hardly ever going to be matched with a similar skilled teammate, but you come up against players that are consistently full stacked of really top, high quality skilled players. So if Apex is going to have such an intense skill-based matchmaking system, they should at least apply the same standard to how they match us with teammates when we solo queue. So if I'm a Masters level player with a 3KD, my teammate when I solo queue should have similar stats, or we're not going to stand a chance against the full stack squads that we come up against. Another alternative suggestion is to try separating solo queue and stack lobbies, so that solo queue players come up only against other solo queue players, while preset squads play against preset squads. This would help to shift the balance in the right direction and also make solo queue a much more viable option. So the last major issue with skill-based matchmaking in Season 19 is that it's way too narrow. So I've pretty much seen myself come up against the same players in back-to-back lobbies on many occasions this season. So the way I imagine Apex skill-based currently works is that there's something like 10 tiers of ability. The top 10% are in tier 1, between 10th and 20th percent are in tier 2, all the way up to the 10th tier that has the bottom 10% of player base. So this results in a very small pool of players coming up against each other over and over, and very little variation in skill level in each tier. So I think something that makes more sense is to broaden the skill level buckets, so it's something more like 5 skill tiers. That way there's a bit more variation, and you're not always coming up again and again against the same small pool of players. This would allow a bit more of a balanced gaming experience, so it's not super sweaty if you're in the top tiers, and it'll be still skill-based but not quite as narrowly restricted as it currently is. Alright, so those are the major issues I have with the current Apex skill-based matchmaking system. Just the complete lack of transparency, the mismatch of the teammates you get versus the opponents you play when solo queuing, and just a really restrictive system where you're in the same small pool of player base over and over. I really suggest that Apex provide a bit more clarity about how it works and provide some updates on how they tune and evaluate the matchmaking system. This will help to instill some confidence, that way we know they're always working on it, because it seems like they haven't really made any major updates in the positive direction since the game's launch. With how the current matchmaking system stands, your best bet for kind of playing better and having a better gaming experience is to try to limit solo queuing. Even if you're a demon at this game, it's just really tough to go up against a full stack squad where they have multiple angles on you and it's very hard to isolate the players. It's not as easy to clutch up or solo queue as it used to be, because a lot of these teams hold hands, and the way you really win when you're up against 2 or 3 players is you need to isolate them, and it's very hard to do that in the current state of Apex. So I recommend trying to limit solo queuing, find a decent teammate or buddy to play with, and you'll just have a better time all around. Alright, if you made it this far, thanks for hanging around, appreciate it, enjoy the rest of the gameplay, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.